is actually a dramatic monologue. As far as Matthew Arnold is concerned, he was a religious man, he was a poet and a critic, and he was a Christian, and he always talked about, he was very concerned about loss of Christianity or religion in the name of scientific inventions. He was very much wary or worried about these inventions, and he always talked about his roots. He would go back to his roots, how things used to be and how they should be. It's very important to have your roots attached to it. The moment you leave your roots, it becomes chaotic in terms of religion, in terms of your mental being, social being, psychological being, and physical being as well. All these things are very much prevalent in Matthew Arnold. As far as the world is concerned, where he was writing, the era is concerned, it was during mid-1800s. Matthew Arnold is best remembered for his written poem Dover Beach, and it is solidified place in the history of 19th century poetry. The central message of the poem is that the world is decline without faith. So loss of faith is an important thematic journey and point that is going to be there, and themes could be religion, nature, not being near to roots, and etc. Speaker is assumably to be the Matthew Arnold, and poetic form is free verse. This poem explores the decline of faith and resulting sense of uncertainty and melancholy in the modern world. So it is also a complaint and a plea against the modernity, how these modern people, they are uncertain, they don't have any certainty, and they are always in the sense of being or we can say they are always haphazard or chaotic because they don't have certainty. There is this Urdu share where the poet says that ए हालत हाजिर ए दौरे हाजिर के इंसान गुलामी से बदतर है बेयकीनी. So बेयकीनी or being not sure what is going to come forward and what is going to happen is worse than being a slave to somebody, right? Because they lost their faith, that could be one of the reasons, and being very much indulged in materialistic things can be one as well. If you are too much into the riches of life and the materialistic possessions that you want to hold dearly, they can cause this chaos as well. Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold was published in 1867. It was there in a volume entitled New Poems. In this poem, he discusses how faith used to encompass the whole world, holding the populace tight in its embrace, but it is losing the grounds to sciences, particularly to the related to the origin of species by Charles Darwin in 1859. If we talk about history of English literature, such as Anglo-Saxon period, medieval English literature, and further all the movements, most of the things that were there was the religious practice, be it paganism, heathenism, Christianity, Protestantism, Puritanism, any kind of flavor of religion was there, and certain people, a tribe, a group of people, a community would definitely follow something. But this time where Arnold is writing, nobody believed in anything but science, right? They were not following, they were not connected to people, they were isolated, they were secluded, they would like to spend time in solitary. These days we do not like company. Although जब हम घर से बाहर होते हैं, we would like to be in groups, but when we are not, we try to go for the secluded places. Some of us, not all of us. So Matthew Arnold is worrisome about that the people are becoming scientific and they are building their own world, a separate world apart from their community levels. As far as we are concerned, we took Pakistan in the name of religion. ऐसा ही है ना, we got separated from Bharat for this only reason, so that we can practice our religious beliefs openly and without any restriction. So religion was the encompassing boundary or the foundational thing for everyone to get together, but now he believes it's no longer there because science is creating chaos and fuss out there. And then there is this religion of sensiology, which is followed by Tom Cruise, a very famous actor. They believe in the supremacy of science only. They do not believe in anything. They have a dome of themselves. आपने देखा हुआ है, इंटरनेट पे सर्च कीजिएगा Scientology. It's called Scientology, a religion based in science, followed by scientists within the scientific realm. आप देखेंगे तो you will find it very disturbing and amusing at the same time. It's like a cult. अभी इस वक्त वो एक cult है. Sensuology is a cult, जो कि later on there is a chance कि वो एक religion बन ही जाएगा because people are following them. Okay, summary की तरफ देखें. Dover Beach is a dramatic monologue lamenting on the loss of the true Christian faith in England in 1800s to science. The poet's speaker, considered to be Matthew Arnold himself, begins by describing a calm and quiet sea out in English Channel. He stands on the Dover coast and looks across the France, and where a small light can be seen briefly and then vanishes. This light represents the diminishing faith of English people and the world around them. Throughout this poem, the speaker Arnold crafts an image of the sea receding and returning to land with the world's faith as it changes throughout the time. At this point in time, though, the sea is not returning, it is receding farther out into the strait. The poem concludes pessimistically as the speaker makes clear to the reader that all beauty and happiness that one may believe they are experiencing is not in fact real. The world is actually without peace, joy or help for those in need, and the human race is too distracted by its own ignorance to see where the assistance is needed anymore. Can you relate to his thought process? We are more indulged in things which we can show off rather than where we would actually be needed, where we need to help them truly. So he's being very worried about the thing as well, that it is the world of showing off the scientific inventions, the materialistic possessions, and showing people that I can do this and that, but not actually helping people in need. So his concern is loss of faith, loss of humanity, loss of human connection, and loss of the entire civilization with its roots. These are some of his concerns that he time and again is going to voice in the poem Dover Beach. Let's go to analysis. Stanza 1. The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the stairs on the French coastline. Gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air only from the long line of spray. Where the sea meets the moon-blanched land, listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back, fling their return up high strand. Begin and cease and then again begin with tremulous, sudden, slow and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Arnold begins Dover Beach by describing the setting in which it is taking place. It is clear from the title, although never explicitly stated in the poem, that the beach is in question is Dover on the coast of England. The sea is said to be calm. There is a beach on the water at full tide. The moon lies fair, lovely upon the stairs. A narrow passage of water such as the English Channel onto which Dover Beach abuts. Although it is useful to imagine the speaker in a particular place, the setting is not important as what it represents. Right? So setting is not that important. The speaker can see across the channel to the French side of the water. The lights on the far coast are visible, gleaming and then disappearing. The cliffs of England are standing themselves vast and glimmering. All he's trying to say that the humanity, the humans, they have lost faith, and that glimmering light that he can see from afar is that light that can bring back the faith. He also talks about how standing on the seashore, he can see water coming and going, and that water coming and going is also the fluctuation or fluctuating state of religion in that era. Okay? Some people were following, some were in the middle, some were leaving it, so एक fluctuation चल रही थी. So he's talking about these natural phenomena in that light. The light that shines then vanishes, representing to the speaker and to Arnold himself, vanishing the faith of English people. So light का आना जाना, flicker करना, fluctuate करना is the flickering of religious faith and Christianity itself. No one around him seems to see the enormity of what is happening, and the night is quiet. There is a calm the speaker refers to as tranquil, but as the reader will come to see, many things may seem one way but exist the opposite. Right now, in the natural phenomena on physical level, he can see the calm, but the poet is very skeptic about it, cynic about it, that things that see in a certain way are not actually the same. वो कहते हैं ना कि एक खामोशी के बाद आंधी आती है और आंधी के बाद एक सन्नाटा, मतलब एक खामोशी जो है वो किसी किस्म के बड़े वबाल का वो अंदेशा देती है. Saying like it is a message for a bigger chaos. So perhaps he's referring to the same over here, that it is not what it seems to be. Now the speaker turns to another person that is in the scene with him and asks that this unnamed person comes to the window and breathe in the sweet night air. The second half of this stanza is spent describing the sound of the water that the speaker is doing. The speaker draws his companion's attention. So we are introduced with the companion in the poem, and they are looking through the window and they are listening to the natural sounds that is being produced by this water on the rushes of the pebbles. They roll over one another, creating the grating roar. This happens over and over again in the sea, recedes and returns. The slow cadence of this movement and its eternal repetition seems sad to the narrator, as if the returning sea is bringing the eternal note of sadness in it. See, so he says that the light, the flickering light is gone, so is the faith of England, Christianity is gone, and the fact that the water is going back and forth and leaving the seashore is also the indication that the people of England, they are losing faith and they are once and for all moving to the other side of the, we can say, group, where people are no longer into religious faith or their roots. Stanza 2. Sophocles long ago heard it in the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery we find also in the sound of thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The second, do you know who is Sophocles? Who is he? He's a dramatist and a philosopher as well. The second stanza is much shorter and relates to the world in which the two characters are in the larger picture of the history. The speaker states that long ago Sophocles heard this sound in the Aegean Sea as the tides came in. It too brought to his mind the feelings of human misery and how those emotions ebb and flow. Sophocles, who penned the play Antigone, is one of the best known dramatic writers of ancient Greece. Arnold hopes to bring the reader's attention to the universal experience of misery that all throughout time have lived with. This short stanza ends with a return to the present as the narrator states we are finding these same emotions in the sound. So he is referring to history, he's being nostalgic, that this has been foreseen before us, which has been seen by Sophocles, where he has mentioned that in the Sea of Aegean, where he has predicted that this is the start of human miseries. This is going to be miserable start for humans. Then we have stanza number third. The sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of night wind down to the vast edges dearer and naked shingles to the world. In third stanza of Dover Beach, it becomes clear that Arnold is speaking about the diminishing faith of this countrymen and women. He describes that the sea of faith once covered all of the round earth's shore and held everyone together like a girdle. Now, though this time has passed, no longer is populace united by a common Christian faith in God. By Arnold sees it spread apart by new sciences and conflictive opinion. Now, understand it by this imagery where he's saying that earlier we did not have any seashores. It was actually covered with the water, and that water represents the presence of religion. Now that water is going away from seashore and going back into the river, that fluctuation, that retrieving, that going back to the river showcases that the religion is going far away from humans and it is starting the miseries of humans. ठीक है, आप जब टेक्स्ट पढ़ते हैं it is quite dense and difficult, but all in all is saying that this water represents, which used to be on the shore, the presence of religion. Now it is not there anymore. It is not covering the seashore. Therefore the religion has moved away, parted ways as well. यहाँ तक बात समझ आई? Then we have stanza 4. Our love, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor love nor light, no certitude, no peace, nor help for pain, and we are here as one on a darkling plain, swift with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. At the beginning of the fourth stanza, it becomes clear that companion who is looking out over the water with the speaker is most likely to be a lover of the romantic partner. He speaks now directly to her and perhaps to all those true believers in God that are still out there. He asks that they remain true to one another in this lands of dream. He calls this present world a land of dreams, and land of dreams is always a lie, a full, आप ऐसे कह दें कि एक illusion होता है, disillusionment होता है, delusional होता है, वो आपको जो दिखता है, everything that shines is never gold. And he's talking about the same sentiment over here. This world is no longer what it was, and it is more likely to be a dream than a reality that it is used to be. It is a land that appears full of very beautiful, new and joyous things, but it is not the case. The world is in fact with joy, love, light, certitudes, without all these things, or finally health for those in pain. So he's saying, look at the repetition in the text he uses. No, neither joy nor love nor light nor certitude nor peace nor help for pain. So this is the true depiction of the present era that Arnold was living in, and this is also referring to the faithlessness among people. When you do not have faith, you will not have relationships. If you don't have relationships, you won't have stable society. If you don't have stable society, you will not have a stable country. If you don't have a stable country, there will be no law and etc. And chaos follows. Everything will be disrupted, and he's talking about the same disruption over here. The poem concludes with a pessimistic outlook on the state of the planet, as people are suffering around the world, are doctoring plain, confused and frightened for things they don't understand. Real suffering is going on, faith is slipping away. So the poem, all in all, if you want to have, a quick review or a summary of the poem, it's about the loss of faith and religiosity, how people are getting away or leaving their roots at bay at the shore, and shore itself has become covered with all those faithless Christians who are not following Christianity anymore, and the water itself is retreating back into the ocean, and the light, the glimmering light that was there, that was the hope for it in the beginning, it's no longer there, and he's very pessimistic by the end of the poem. शुरुआत में कहीं पे थोड़ी सी hope है, light है, fluctuation है, but by the end there is no fluctuation, and the shore is all dry, and it is occupied by all those non-religious kind of people who are no longer following their roots and religion. So that is Matthew Arnold.